These my dollars make it hurt.
Welcome in. It's the Deep Cover Podcast. We are back at you coming off of a week 9 in the National Football League, where your Baltimore Ravens came out on top against the Minnesota Vikings 34-31. Another overtime game. Was that third overtime game this year? Is that right?
It feels like 10. I don't know.
Every week. An overtime game. Yeah, I think it's right. I think that's the third one because you had the Raiders, you had the Colts, and then I think this was it because Detroit did not go to overtime. He kicked that at the end of regulation, I believe. So I think this was the third one. But hey, it was one of those games where the Ravens were trailing, kind of a little bit of a slow start as we've seen, and then they just battled their way back and were able to get the win at the end there. So we'll talk about all of that. Maybe look a little bit ahead, quickly ahead to the Thursday night game against the Dolphins. Short turnaround, 2 games in 5 days, but that's the way the schedule is right now. But before we do any of that, check in with the guys, Chris and Kerry, as usual. I'll start with you, Kerry. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right, man. Glad to pull out the win. I'll be thankful that this team hopefully give us some less stressful games down the stretch. I'm not going to hold my breath that that's going to happen, but hoping for it. But, at the end of the day, I'm glad to be talking to you guys about a win rather than a loss.
Yeah, because it was looking shaky early in that game. It was looking iffy for sure. So it's always good we can talk about wins. Chris, how are you doing, man? You must have had the candle, the bobblehead. It must have all been working.
Everything. I had every good luck charm, man. I was praying and hoping, and the team did it again, man. So like Kerry said, man, I'm happy that we're here talking about a win and not about a letdown coming out off of the bye, because we know this team has been hot when they have that bye. So I'm glad we don't have to go down that road, and I'm glad we don't have to fire every coach and bench every player that we have. So I'm glad they got this one.
Man, early in that game, if you were on Twitter and following Ravens fans early in that game, we had everybody fired. Wink was gone, Roman was gone, maybe Harbs. I don't know. Somebody might have had him gone too. But it was not pretty out there in the Ravens Twitter streets early in this game. And the game itself wasn't pretty. I mean, the Ravens got on the board first with the field goal, but then you had the Justin Jefferson 50-yard touchdown. Dalvin Cook had a long run in there that set up another touchdown, a little short 1-yard touchdown by Cousins. And next thing it's 17-3. And you're like, man, this has gotten out of hand quickly. Like real quickly, right? And then the Ravens get a touchdown, right? They get a little drive. I guess that might have been the drive where they got the pass interference. Bateman drew the pass interference
right before halftime.
Yeah. And then they got the touchdown to Freeman. Little throw to Devontae Freeman. And then they come out of halftime, 98-yard kickoff return. To the crib. Now it's 24-10. And I'm like, man, just because, they got the touchdown before the half at 17-10. I'm thinking, all right, we got this thing on track now. We're good. And then the touchdown, the kickoff return touchdown. You're like, damn, maybe it's just one of those days. But they continued to battle, and that's what they've done all year, man. That's really what this team has done. Aside from the Bengals game, that's what this team has done all year. Just keep fighting, keep finding a way to keep themselves in games and give themselves opportunities to make plays, get there at the end, and then find a way to seal the deal at the end. But I'll start with you on this, Kerry. I know you were out of town. And you fortunately, you said you got to see like the overtime. That's when things were actually, turning a little bit more in the Ravens' favor. But what do you think about, what you were able to see from the game, if you had a chance to watch the game afterwards, and just kind of your overall thoughts on, another nail biter?
Yes, I had a chance to go back and watch it, and two stuck out to me. Just the resilience of this. We joke about how stressful it is to be a Ravens times, but if you just look at the team they were facing in the Vikings are a team that can run the football, they can throw the football, they have talent on both sides, but they haven't shown resiliency. And so that's why their situation has been kind of capped because of that. We see them time and time again, miss field goals at the end of games, can't make the big play at the end of games. There's a lot of teams like that, man. Vikings, the Chargers have been that way for years that we know of. I mean, you can go down the list. There's a lot of teams that don't have that resilience to kind of pull out these wins. That level of resiliency and being able to kind of not get too off by the peaks and valleys of the game. That I think that's a skill, and you see the best teams and best organizations have that skill. So that stood out to me, and then also something that was kind of complained about during the Ravens' last loss to the Bengals that I saw in this Vikings game, and I saw a lot of plays being made off of it, is Lamar holding onto the ball and making plays. Whether it be guys draped on them, jump passes, however he had to get it done, he was getting it done. And so I saw him stepping up into pressure, knowing he was going to get hit. I saw him absorb contact in the in the running game, getting solid gains. So just a reminder for people, the guy's special. The guy's he's just a special playmaker, and when you have that kind of ability, um, your imagination is a little bit more than the average player. So, stuff that we see and look at and say, hey, you probably shouldn't try that. Well, we aren't Lamar, and there's not many Lamar on this planet. So he's a guy that can see a lane, say, hey, I can make that play. So, you have to kind of balance it and give him room to just be him. Now, that's going to lead to, maybe taking a sack here and there, those kind of things. But as you saw, the way he, willed this team back, he just kept making play after play after play after play until the end of the game, and they pulled it out. But that doesn't happen if you try to uh, temper his approach as a player.
Yeah, he's got that thing that all great players seem to have, where you, like you said it best, you have to give them the freedom to express themselves on the football field, whether that's Ed Reed. Sometimes you're like, no, 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 yes, 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 in terms of the way that he's breaking on balls, or he gets an interception and he's trying to lateral it, or, maybe he thinks he sees something and it turns out that it really wasn't that. And so he's kind of out of position on that play. But more times than not, it pays off, right? Just because of the preparation, because of their ability, because of their just that intuition that they have on the field in games. And you just have to allow them to express that. And like you said, it's a balance. It can be a tricky balance, because when it doesn't work, then you get the flip side of it, of why, like you said, people, he's holding the ball too long. He's got to get the ball out of his hands. Look, he had this guy open, he had that guy open. He could have just checked it down. That's the flip side of that, right? Kind of the negative. But on the other side, like you said, you will have games like this where, to your point, if you look at if you look at it by drives, and you look at I think they had like 12 drives. Obviously, this game went to overtime, so there's a lot of drives. But like their last, let me count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, their last 5 drives of regulation, it was touchdown, 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 touchdown into regulation, right? And then obviously that first possession in OT, he throws an interception, but defense gets a stop. They get the ball back, and they drive down and make a field goal. So you think about that, right? 5 of your last, 8 possessions, no, 6 of your last 8 possessions end in points, regardless of how it started out. And, you just have to let, guys who have that kind of playmaking ability express it. So let me get to you on that, Chris. You can speak on that point or anything else that you took away from the game.
Man, just the resilience of the team. Like I feel like we say it every week, but that's special to have on this team where you come and you come right before half and you score a touchdown and you get close and you're like, all right, we're back in this. And then, like you said, they run back for a touchdown on the kickoff after halftime. And how many teams would just put their heads down and just be like, damn, it's just everything's going wrong. It's not our day today. And maybe we won't see the kind of effort, but with this team, it's like they're never out of it. Like no matter what, all right, that team ran it back. All right, cool. We're gonna go out and score. It's not done. It's not over yet. Like Marcus Peter we ain't done yet. I think we ain't done. So, and that's kind of the mantra that this team has is no matter how it looks, no matter how dire the situation is, it's not done. And that this is going to help them in the future. Like come playoff time, this is going to help them because they've been down in the playoffs before and they didn't know how to respond to it. And I forgot who it was that brought this up, but Lamar didn't play. He didn't finish out that game against the Bills. Maybe it's a different result if he's able to finish that game. Because the Lamar that we're seeing this year, he's closing out games. He's the closer. He's doing the Mariano Rivera right now, and he's shutting these games down. So hopefully it's a sign of good things to come, and this is just building character for the whole team. So it's fun to see afterwards, not during. During is not fun to watch because you have a heart attack throughout the game and you're like, damn, man, they're about to lose. They just came off the bye. They had the embarrassing loss to the Bengals, and this is how they show up. But now that we're here and we know that they won, it's fun to watch. Like I could watch those highlights. I'd be like, oh, that was cute. That Lamar threw that little interception to Anthony Barr. That's cute. But yeah, man. So like I said, this is all lessons and building blocks to hopefully propel this team into the playoffs.
Yeah, we can definitely sit back and laugh at it now. We weren't laughing during the
Man, when Anthony Barr caught that ball, I was like, damn, it's over. But no, props to James Urban. Props to James Urban because on the Ravens Wired episode, Lamar was down on the bench and James Urban was in his ear. He was like, we're going to get a stop and we're going to win this game. And sure enough, they got, of course, that's what he's going to say. He's not going to be like, yeah, man, we lost. But, to build his quarterback up who, visibly down. It's like, no, man, we're going to get the ball back and we're going to win this thing.
And you can tell that they do believe in him. Like you said, some of that is like, okay, well, what do you expect your coach to say, right? Or you think he's going to come over there and be like, that's a wrap, man. Sorry. you expect him to kind of encourage you and keep you up. But I've heard players who have been on like losing teams for like, a number of seasons say, hey, there were times in games where we just knew it was over. There was no way we were coming back. There was no way we were in the game. He's like, there were times coming into the game. We were like, we're going to go win this game. And so,
there might have been one on the other sideline.
Yeah, very true. Yeah,
because it doesn't look like they they have the utmost confidence in Kirk Cousins in those kinds of situations. Even though he did throw that touchdown to Thielen at the end of the fourth quarter, but the same confidence that the Ravens players have and the Ravens coaching staff has in Lamar, you don't really see that in Kirk Cousins.
No, you can tell that team, the players, the coaches, they believe in Lamar. We've seen it game after game, right? Where they're just like, hey, if Lamar thinks we can do it, we can do it. He has become the leader in that way, right? When maybe his rookie year, even into that 2019 season, he was still kind of looking towards veterans like Marshall Yanda and stuff like that. right? To say, hey, I want to do it, but what do you think? You think we should do it? And now he's completely grown into that role, and the rest of the team believes him, and they'll follow that dude anywhere, man. So um, we're so spoiled that we have the ability to watch this guy and see what we're seeing, because I don't know that we can fully appreciate it right now because it's happening. Sometimes you need time, the passage of time and things and happen, and then you can kind of look back and say, wow, we really saw something special back then, because as time goes on, you don't see it again for a number of years. And so you're like, wow, that was even like, you knew it was good. You're like, this is even more special than I realized even back then. So I feel fortunate that we get a chance to watch this guy play in this team. Unfortunately, everything wasn't good in this game. Deshaun Elliott, the guy, as you guys know, near and dear to my heart, guy who I thought coming into this year had an opportunity to have kind of a breakout year. I think torn pec muscle.
Yeah, torn pec.
Yeah.
Out for the season, and looked like he probably tore it or at least injured it earlier in the game and kept playing. And probably did further damage to it. Now, I'm not a doctor, I don't know that for sure, but I think there was a play where he had made kind of like a diving tackle at Cook, and he got up and it looked like it wasn't right then, but he stayed in the game and he kept playing until it got to a point where he just couldn't anymore. But that's a big loss. That's a really big loss, and I want to start with you, Chris, on how you think they adjust and adapt with the other guys that they have to try to step into that role.
Yeah, no, it sucks about Deshaun because just as far as the team, you could tell he's the vocal leader of that secondary. He's the guy that's pumping the other guys up, and he's the attitude of that secondary. I know we have Chuck, he's kind of like the quiet, reserved, uh, follow my lead, and you won't hear from me that much, but you follow what I say, and kind of one of those kind of leaders. And then Deshaun, he's the vocal guy. So you lose that aspect of it, but then you also lose a guy who, he works well with Chuck Clark, and we know how that marriage between the two safeties can work. I mean, we saw it for years with DeJuan Landry and Ed Reed. It has to be a marriage, and they have to kind of fit together. They don't have to be the same kind of players, but they have to, they kind of have to balance each other out in a way. And we saw that synergy between them. And now, most likely going to have to go to Brandon Stevens, who's a rookie, and he's very new to the position. So he's learning a new position while in the NFL, facing the best players in the world. So there are going to be some hiccups. There are going to be some struggles. But from what we've seen from him, I don't think it's going to be a disaster or anything like that. There are going to be misplays, of course. I mean, Marlowe gets beat every now and then. So, there's always going to be some kind of breakdowns or a missed tackle here. But I mean, this is going to be the growing pains for him. And we could be watching the starting safety for the Ravens for the 2022 starting safety with Brandon Stevens. So we're kind of getting a sneak peek of what we might be in store for next year if they don't bring Elliott back, who's going to be a free agent.
You just kind of hurt my heart with that right there, but I'm gonna soldier on. It was painful to hear those words, but
hey, he might be back. Hey, the injury might be a blessing in disguise for the 2022 season. He might be back on a cheaper deal.
Yeah, I understand the business side. Trust me, I understand.
Yeah.
He may not him per se, but the market may make it difficult for the Ravens to bring him back. So we'll see how that goes. We still got the rest of this season to get through, and there'll be plenty of time for free agency and all of that stuff during the off season. But I'll turn to you on it now, Kerry. How do you think they adjust? They got some other guys who can kind of step in. And I think Harbaugh talked about it at a presser earlier this week, where he sees kind of a rotational approach. But maybe it's one of those things where some guy like Greg Roman likes to always say, you want somebody to grab the brass ring. maybe one guy kind of steps in and grabs the ring, or do you think it'll be kind of a committee approach?
Yeah, I think it'll be some committee approach. I do think they'll give Steven kind of the first run and allow him a chance to take the job and run with it. But again, he's a rookie, still going through some growing pains. So I can see in kind of high leverage situations, 3rd and long kind of situation, I can see Jimmy being the guy back there. Especially with Westry on his way back to add to that cornerback group. I can see them leaning on Jimmy that way. But I think some other guys are mixed in. Like I can see Geno Stone mixing in, closer to the line of scrimmage, doing some of those things. So I do think it'll be sort of a committee, but I think they'll give Stevens that first opportunity to try to, see what he can do, if he can take the job and run with it. Because like Chris alluded to, Deshaun Elliott is going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And yeah, this injury probably heightens the chances that the Ravens can get him back at a more manageable number. It's still no guarantee. He's put enough on tape where someone may be willing to take that chance anyway. So, the Ravens, behoove them to see what they have in Stevens, to see, if he's a guy that, regardless of what happens with the market, if he's a guy that they can roll with next year as that starting safety. So I think they're going to give him a chance to try to do that.
And one thing we know they have experience with this year, it is having to replace players due to injury. They got a ton of guys who are out for the season this year. And, some of that happened during the preseason. Some of that happened during the earlier part of this season. And, you have to have other guys come in and step into those roles, whether it's one guy or a group of guys, and find a way to get through games, and find a way for guys to do those jobs and help, whether it's on offense or defense, right? So, and we've seen this. We got a little, Chris, you mentioned it earlier, Deshaun Elliott being out in the Colts game earlier, and we got to see Brandon Stevens play a larger role in that game. And we've seen Geno Stone, going back to the preseason, and now it looks like you mentioned him too, Kerry, that he may get a few more opportunities now. And then Jimmy, we've seen him in this hybrid role a lot this year, hybrid corner kind of safety role. And now, he's maybe going to slide in a little bit more into that one of those safety roles, but you never know with the way that they, do things on defense. Maybe they'll shuffle the deck in some kind of way that we haven't seen yet, and come out with some packages that we're like, oh, didn't see that coming. Didn't see them, coming out with that kind of look. So it's the one thing about Wink, you just never know, what you're going to get in that regard. But I don't feel like, as much as I'm going to miss Deshaun on a personal level, because I was really excited for him to have, that kind of breakout year that I was hoping for. I do like Brandon Stevens a lot. Me and Denard Melton over there at the Fire Zone show talked about him a lot coming out of SMU, and just how he looked so natural as a DB, even though he had not been playing DB for that long. He'd been a running back at UCLA, then transferred to SMU and walked on to try to become a DB there. So I think he had played some back in high school, but hadn't maybe done it in games. I think he even talked about doing it some in practice at UCLA, but hadn't done it in games until he transferred to SMU, and he just looked natural. He just looked very fluid, the way that he moved. You knew that there was going to be some technique stuff, that he was going to have to work on, and obviously learning the Ravens scheme. And then, like you said, Chris, playing against the best players in the world as you're trying to learn all this. So we knew that there was going to be a curve for sure. But I'm confident in him, and part of me is excited to see Geno Stone as well too, to kind of see, because going back to the year that he came out, we were big fans of his, and we're really hoping that he would make the team. He's kind of been with the team, been away from the team, back to the team, and it seems like there's something there in their eyes with him, something that they want to continue to try to develop. And so I'm looking forward to seeing him get some opportunities as well. Anything else you guys want to touch on this Vikings game?
Yeah, I want to hit on Hollywood
Hmm.
because I feel like Hollywood is finally getting the respect that he deserves. And actually, you know what? I want to pass this one off to Kerry because earlier in the week, had to because I'm just thinking like I'm seeing all this love for Hollywood from all the Ravens fans, and I'm like, man, if only these people saw what folks were saying to Kerry when he was like, the pick should be Hollywood, like it's clear as day, it should be Hollywood, and the amount of people that were coming after Kerry for this, it was just, I mean, I didn't even agree with Kerry, but I wasn't like, no, like you're dumb for that. No, like I was just like, I don't really see it. They want Bill to bully. He's a little guy. He's coming off of an injury. He got a screw in his foot. I don't know. I don't think so. But Kerry was like, hey man, he could bring something to this offense. So I want Kerry to talk about Hollywood.
Yeah, man. So when in the draft process, when I looked at the way they were constructed, I knew he didn't fit necessarily the way they were constructed. But when I looked at, I looked straight at the Chiefs. I looked at a dynamic quarterback having a wide receiver that create separation, that get down the field and create, um, basically like a natural seven box, but you really uh, bring guys up the box. You have somebody like that. So to me, it was the quickness, the speed, the elusiveness off rip before I even like dug really deep into him. But then I started watching, and I just started watching the way he moved, the way he separated, and I thought he was kind of sneaky down the field, at the catch point and things like that. I remember just one day just saying, and it wasn't like a hot take or anything like that. I was just kind of like, why aren't people talking about Hollywood Brown as the wide receiver flag? Of course, everybody jumped on me, started naming this guy and that guy, and I was like, "Ooh, like you guys can have your opinion, but I have mine too." And I kind of just stuck with it. The wide receiver one class to me, and even if he doesn't reach that level or whatever, like to me, is no denying that this guy's a really, really good football player. And for some reason, people kind of decide every time he drops a pass or two, or you know doesn't make a play, or whatever the case may be. Um, people kind of jump to that bust label, or he's not really Hollywood and this and that. But this is a really productive player, man. Like even in his failures, he's still making plays within those. Now, if he made some other plays that you drop touchdowns, I mean, we'd be talking about wide receiver one in the league, wide receiver one in fantasy, all these things. But this is a guy that's been very productive, and I always point back to look at his numbers in the playoffs. When the pressure is on, when the lights are the brightest, look and see what this guy is doing. And I'm glad that he's playing well, and people are starting to kind of show him respect, and you see less of the negative and less of the bust stuff. Within all that, just remember I told you first.
That's right. Let them know.
Not only did you say it first, you had the courage to stick with your conviction, no matter what people were saying, no matter the other names that people were throwing out there, the size, the injury, you didn't waver. You stuck through it the entire time. I admit I was cowardly. I liked him, but I was like, I can't say it. I can't say it like Kerry's saying it. So I was cowardly. I mean, the one thing I know, I think we talked about it a little bit, was like the one thing that was just like apparent, and we've heard even T. Martin talk about it, is his ball tracking. I mean, he's one of the best that I've seen. Just in terms of looking at guys coming out of college, looking at wide receivers. I mean, just his ability to track the deep ball is uncanny. Just how natural and how comfortable he looks doing it. But I was late. I was very late to it. Kerry was certainly ahead of the curve, and I remember looking last year because I was like, man, let me really take a deep look now at what's going on. And so I took like a 6 or 7 game sample in 2020. Just looked at his routes, right? All of his routes, whether he got targeted or not. Just looked at everything. And the big takeaway was throw him the ball. It was opportunity. Like if he gets opportunities, he's going to make plays. You could see it, right? And like you said, there were drops here and there, and of course people want to seize on that because they go back to the soldier quote and all that stuff. And I'm like, look, that's part of playing receiver, right? And you're gonna have drops. You're gonna drop some balls. That's just part of it. But when I looked at those targets and even the non-targets where he actually was open and had created separation, maybe wasn't part of the progression, whatever, you can see if you just get this guy the ball, he's going to make plays. And so I think they've certainly made, I think, more of a concerted effort this year to get him the ball in different ways, not just those deep targets down the field. Obviously, those are there, always going to be a part of his game. But we're starting to see kind of more of the short and intermediate stuff now. Because one thing about guys with tremendous speed, we used to say this about Torrey Smith, is they should be open on like comebacks, switches, stop routes, whatever you want to call them, curls. You shouldn't be able to cover them on those routes because of that speed, right? Those should be open like all day, every day, if you choose to throw those kinds of routes. And you're starting to see him run more of those kinds of routes now. You're starting to see the bubble screens and the perimeter screens and him making people miss or running through a little bit of contact and then, accelerating and showing that speed after the play. So for me, that sample that I did, that little 6 or 7 games, it wasn't even like I looked at that many games. You could just see it so clearly. Like, hey, if you get this guy the ball, he's going to make plays. This is what this is about. This is not about him not being able to make plays or he can't live up, to what he had in terms of hype coming out of Oklahoma because he had some crazy number of like 40-yard plus catches while he was at Oklahoma, something ridiculous. But you knew it wasn't going to be like that because it's the NFL. But I knew that from watching those plays, I was like, if they just get him the ball more, this guy can be a dynamic playmaker. I'm through with the labels. I'm not getting in wide receiver 1, but it doesn't even mean anything. It's just, do you have playmakers? And can you find ways to get them the ball and get them in opportunities for them to do what they do? And he's that guy. They've added more guys. Bateman, Watkins, obviously Andrews, does his thing. That's all I care about. I don't care about these damn labels of 1, 2, X, Z. I don't care about any of that. It has its place. The like X and Z stuff, why that has its place because guys do have to fit in somewhere in the design of a play. And you got to tell guys where to go, what position they're playing. But for what we're talking about in terms of like production and whether a guy can be good, how effective he can be in the offense, none of those labels mean anything to me. They're just words.
Well, let me ask you a question, Mike. So for going into 2022 season, who's going to be the number 1 wide receiver then? Bateman or Hollywood?
You put me on the spot. Equal. And I can't make a call. They're both equal.
It's going to come.
Oh yeah. It's certainly going to come. It's been coming already. I think you start to hear little whispers of people. This Bateman, he's going to be the wide receiver 1. He's going to take over or what? Hey, who cares? Who cares? Like I said, it's a label, right? We just want to get guys the ball, make catches, make plays, score points. That's what it's about. You can call it whatever. Who cares?
It's that people can't really clearly quantify either. Because if you ask 10 people what is one wide receiver, you're probably gonna get 10 different. So to your point, Mike, like you said, can the guy make plays? Does he influence defensive coordinators, line of thinking when they're calling plays? That's what I'm looking for. If the talent level is there, if they're influencing the defensive coordinator's decision because of their ability, that's what I care about more than whatever that. Like, clearly, when you have a Lamar and you have a Hollywood on the field at the same time, at any given time, challenge every single blade of grass on that field. So that's bad.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the crazy thing about that is that their fourth option in the offense is their first round wide receiver. Like, and it's not. Mike and I were talking about this before we started recording. This is not just a regular rookie wide receiver. The way Bateman plays is he plays like he's been in the league for about 4 or 5 years already. Just the attitude that he has, the way he was able to just walk in pretty much with no time with Lamar and just take off. And I mean, he's missed the first down right now, where every catch he's getting is a first down. And he had some highlight reel catches on Sunday against the Vikings, and it's like we're seeing this from him now. So it's going to be tough, man. And then once once they get their running backs back, J.K. and Gus, this is going to be a crazy offense for defensive coordinators to try to stop.
Yeah. Sky's the limit. Sky's the limit because we know what kind of talent Lamar is. We've seen what Lamar. I thought about this earlier this week, and I was almost, I had to catch myself because I was using the word ceiling. Like, we've seen the ceiling when Lamar has an offensive line, right? 2019 MVP, unanimous MVP. But I was like, no, we don't even know if that's the ceiling. We we don't know what the ceiling can be.
The ceiling is the roof with this guy.
Exactly. Because he had the offensive line that year, but he had nowhere near the weapons at the skill positions that he has now. So you combine these guys with continuity and stability on the offensive line. We don't know what to see. We have not seen the ceiling yet. And look, we're getting ready to talk about this Miami game, I think, coming up Thursday Night Football. I'll just say this as we think back to that 2018 Miami game. Hollywood goes 4 for what? 147 and 2 TDs. What do you think the Dolphins called him? Wide receiver one. Well, I don't know what they called him, but he lit the ass on fire. You want. But the proof was in the pudding in that game. So call him whatever you want. He dominated you in that game. So it kind of is what it is there. But yeah, last call. We'll do last call in the Vikings game before we do move on to that Miami game. Anything else we want to touch on there?
I'm good. I think we got it.
I think that's it. Going once, going twice. Sold. Okay. So Thursday Night Football, quick turnaround, right? Just played an overtime game, ton of snaps against the Vikings on Sunday. Here they are, Thursday Night Football, going down to South Florida. But like Lamar said, he said earlier in his presser, hey, I love football, man. So I'm good. They asked him about the quick turnaround. How do you feel? He's like, I don't know about any of that. I love football, so I'm ready to roll. So South Florida, obviously homecoming for him. Hollywood, Sammy, just probably a bunch of dudes on that team. This is kind of like a homecoming for them. So they're probably pretty, jacked up about that, wanting to kind of put on a show in front of friends and family down there. Dolphins, coming off of a win recently, but up until that point, it had been kind of a struggle for the Dolphins this year. So I'll start with you, Chris. I'll admit I haven't really watched the Dolphins too closely. I may have seen a game or two. I haven't done like a deep dive or anything yet. I might try to watch them tomorrow during the day before the game tomorrow night. But what are your thoughts about this game?
So it's looking like they're not going to face Tua for this game. It looks like it's going to be Jacoby Brissett making the start. That's what some of the reports were coming out, that's what the Dolphins were preparing for, to have Brissett as their starter. So that's something that bodes well for the Ravens because although Brissett, he's one of the best backups you could have in the NFL, but he's not a guy that's going to really attack you down the field. He's going to be a take what the defense gives him kind of guy. He's not going to take many chances either. So that bodes well for the Ravens. And also, they have one of the worst offensive lines in the leagues, which is, I was talking in our group chat a few days ago, it doesn't make sense how their offensive line is so bad because they have so many individually talented players on there, but they just can't get it together as a unit. So this might be a game where those almost sacks that we've been seeing from the defensive line, where they actually get those sacks this game, because like I said, you look at almost every metric, and this is one of the bottom dwellers as far as offensive line play is concerned. So that's something I'm excited to see is how the defensive line mainly is able to get after Brissett here.
Definitely has the feel on paper. Again, got to play
On
these games.
paper.
On paper, you got to play these games, but it definitely has the feel of one of those get right kind of sack games, like you said, to your point, where you've been close, haven't been able to come away with sacks in some of these other games, but this looks like this sets up pretty well for that. Kerry, let me go to you. Short turnaround. We talked about the overtime game against the Vikings, but like I said, South Florida got a lot of South Florida dudes starting with QB1 on this team, so they're going to be pretty excited for this. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, kind of piggyback on what Chris said. I think he summed up Jacoby Brissett pretty well as far as what he brings to the table. He's a guy that's not really gonna challenge the field down the field, but he's also not gonna really put the ball in harm's way a lot. He's more of a kind of see it, throw it kind of guy, not really gonna participate as much. So with those things, I think the Ravens can do some things with the front, and if they're able to kind of get some pressure, though he's not a guy that's gonna challenge things too much, not push the envelope too much. Just the fact that he's more of a see it, throw it guy, I think they can maybe force him into mistakes if they. So I'm looking forward to seeing pressure they can generate, and they kind of force some mistakes. Looking at this Dolphins team, um, I'm concerned with Mike Gesicki. Really, really talented. Tight, tight end has given Ravens trouble. It started off early in the year where they were just playing really, really talented tight ends, and so it was tough to tell, with the production they were giving up, whether it was just the tough starting schedule or whether it was kind of an issue. Well, I think we've seen the last few games, it might be kind of an issue more than it might be talent. So, Gesicki is one of those guys that, to me, can make splash plays, um, as well as any other tight end in the league, because he has that level of athleticism and, ability to, get up in the air, make plays at the catch point, run by people. So, a guy I think they want to have a plan for. We've seen Jimmy line up against Waller and do some of those things. I think they should show Gesicki that same kind of respect, kind of give him that same treatment in high leverage situations. Even though he's not the caliber of a player of a Waller, it's just that, they don't have too many home run kind of guys in this offense, or situations where you feel confident that a guy's going to make a huge play. But Gesicki is one of those guys that can make a huge play. So I think, when it all boils down to it, like I said, in those high leverage third down situations, they need to be paying close attention to him. Other than that, I feel really good about where they are. I mean, this Dolphins defense, I mean, their pass defense is talented, but I think they've kind of underachieved as a pass defense. So, I like where the Ravens offense is going in the passing game. So hopefully they can continue to build on that. But again, as we're talking here with all these different pleasantries and stuff like that, the Ravens are going to absolutely come out and go down 17-0 before we see some kind of miraculous comeback.
I can't take another one, especially 5 days later. It's too soon. It's too soon. We can't take another one, man. You talked about their pass defense. I almost forgot about that report they leaked about, possibly a trade with Xavier Howard coming to the Ravens. Man, he's He's going to be looking if things go the way that if the game goes the way that we think it could go, he's got to be looking over there at the Ravens like, damn, I could have been over there, man, instead of here on this team. But again, to your point, we don't know, right? On paper, everything looks like this should be a comfortable win. Every time that I think any of us have felt that way, the game has gone opposite. It's 100% gone the opposite way. And, maybe we're overthinking it this time. Maybe this is one of those times where it's like, yeah, I hear you, but not this time. I don't know. To me, it's got a little bit of that trap gaminess to it. Not trap game and that the Ravens would be overlooking the Dolphins, because I don't think that's the case at all. I think that they understand, it's the NFL. You can't overlook anybody. You got to prepare every week for everybody. But just that, like I said, you're coming off that overtime game. You're going on the road, quick turnaround, don't have your normal schedule, your normal rest. Those kinds of things kind of make me, a little bit nervous about it. But, we'll see. We'll see. It should be exciting. It should be fun. Part of me wants to say that Wink is going to, unleash hell. And because, to Chris's point, if you've got a struggling offensive line, the one thing that he is really good at is, it almost makes me think of that. What was it? Was it 2019? Might have been 2019. The Texans game. Or maybe it was 2020. I can't remember now. But they played the Texans in Baltimore. I don't remember what season that was. And that offensive line just looked dazed and confused, man. I mean, Wink had guys coming from everywhere. Guys were looking at each other. Like, that's never a good sign. When offensive linemen look at each other, right? Instead of looking at the defense. And the guys are running by them while they're looking at each other. He just had guys dazed and confused. So I hope that they can find themselves in that situation where you have an offensive line that's struggling, and you can do some of the things that the Ravens do from a pressure standpoint and just really turn this thing into something crazy for them and get after Jacoby, because he ain't the most mobile dude in the world. I mean, he can get around a little bit, but it's not like Lamar. And so, you can maybe really crank the heat up on him, and things could get ugly. So that's what I'm hoping for as a Ravens fan. We'll see how it goes. Any other thoughts on this game that you guys have?
Other than I should be down there. No more thoughts in that.
We talked about it.
It's not too late. It's not too late.
If Lamar can do it in the fourth quarter, you can do it in the fourth quarter, and you can get to Miami tonight or tomorrow if it comes down to it.
I wish I could be like Lamar in that sense, but it's not looking good. I'm looking more like Kirk Cousins.
Oh man, dang! I would be there with you in spirit. I too wish that I could go. Not going to make it to the Miami game. Have an opportunity to make it to the Browns game on Sunday Night Football. Watch out for me if they pay in the stands and you see a guy with a Nick Chubb. I'm just joking, y'all. I'm just joking. I don't own a jersey, as some people might know, Nick Chubb or otherwise. But, I know I'm going to get a little something that week because, it's probably one of the worst kept secrets that I was by family a Browns fan from Ohio. Both sides of my family, my mom's side and my dad's side of the family, from Ohio. We were a little bit closer to Cincinnati. We were in Dayton, so we were a little bit closer to Cincinnati. And you thought, okay, well, there might be more Bengals fans. And we had some Bengals fans in the family, but we were mostly Browns fans. And I forget, my dad told me why. I'd have to go back and ask him why. I was like, how did that happen? Being, they're probably, I don't know, over an hour away from Cleveland, maybe closer to 2 hours. But somehow most of the family became Browns fans. And that's kind of how I was raised. But then, of course, the team leaves and, you don't have a team there for a while. Could root for the Bengals. I think a little bit I did. I was kind of watching them a little bit, but just couldn't get into it. And then, not all, but a lot of the Browns players showed up here, on the Ravens team, at least, guys that I knew. And so it just kind of was natural to kind of root for those guys. And just over time, sort of became a Ravens fan. But yeah, is there a part of me that likes for the Browns to do well? Sure, of course, but not against the Ravens. I want the Ravens to win. Let's just get that straight. Let's get that out there. Get that straight. They play each other. I want the Ravens to win. But yes, there will always be a part of me in my heart. It's my family. They give me a hard time about it. They call me a traitor. Because they're like, you're supposed to come back. You're supposed to come back. When the team came back, you're supposed to come back. We understand, when the team or whatever, when the Browns came, they were all back in. They didn't care. They didn't know any of the players. Didn't matter. They were all back, and I didn't come all the way back in.
Damn. So you didn't have the Tim Couch jersey?
I did not. Did not. But you guys know, because we talk about this in our chat, I'm a big fan of Andrew Berry. I like how he operates. I like how he builds the team. I like how he's built that team, particularly on offense. I think they still got some ways to go on some parts of the defense. I mean, look, you can't argue with Myles Garrett. I mean, there's no argument there. But they've still got some other areas on the defense that they need to probably improve. But Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and we saw that tweet today where they've got their whole offensive line signed through like the next 2-3 seasons, something like that. Yeah, that's impressive. That's impressive. So not turning this into a Browns podcast. A little bit ahead of myself because we haven't even played the Dolphins game yet, right? But just hey, I'm excited because I think I got a pretty good shot to go to that game, and I have not seen the Browns in person. Maybe since I don't remember. I don't think I've seen them since I left Ohio as a kid. So, a little bit of sentimentality in it for me, but
like I said in the chat, no matter what happens in the game, you're going to be cheering one way or another.
Hey, one way or the other. Well, if it goes the other way, I can't be cheering in there. I don't think that I'm going to hear the end of that. There's a chance I may go with our buddy from across the pond, James Ogden, and if I'm there with James, he has no allegiances to the Cleveland Browns, so I can't be there like cheering for the Browns or whatever if they happen to be doing well in that game. But I hope that they don't. For the record, I hope that the Ravens curb stomp them. But we'll see how that goes. First, we got to play this Dolphins game. Not get too far out in front of ourselves. We'll see how this goes. But hey, if you guys, unless you guys have anything else, I think we can go ahead and close out the show. I think we're in a pretty good place for right now. Remind everybody, as always, like, subscribe, download. We're looking into some other opportunities. I don't know. Carrie mentioned there could be some deep cover merch somewhere in the future, possibly, So keep your eyes and ears open for that. That's going to be cool when that comes out. Believe me, you'll see it first. I'll have it either on the background or I'll be wearing it, or both. I might have it in the background and be wearing it. So that's going to be exciting when that comes out. And hey, maybe you can get something in time for Christmas. Who knows? Who knows how this is going to go? Things come together quickly. You just never know. But as always, we appreciate everybody for listening, for tapping in with us. You can interact with the show on Twitter at Deep Cover Pod. And, until next time, as always, be good. We'll get at you.
These my dads make it hurt.